I don't know what happened. Just in case you didn't catch it, I am the antisocial socialite back at it again. Thanks so much for tuning in. Happy Friday to everybody. This is a live stream that I wanted to put out for a long time, and it's one of those controversial topics that you don't really want to address, but you know you've got to address. And recently I was having quite a heated discussion with a couple of people in comment section, and definitely somebody on Instagram today. So if you haven't started following me on Instagram, Miss Antisocial Socialite on Instagram, I'm on Twitter. You know, I'm just posting bits and pieces there, but I would really appreciate the support. So if you could jump over, that would be great. And this is one of the topics that I wanted to do, talking about the issue of single mothers for a long time before I started the channel. But recent conversations of just, I don't know. And it's a conversation that has to be had, because at the end of the day, we hear in the Manosphere a lot of conversations about the criticisms of single mothers. And the thing about it is this. How can I say this? Single motherhood is just one aspect of the issues in the black community. We know that in the West, the black community is very much matriarchal, meaning that households are often governed and ran by women, which means that men are in the houses, but they are not necessarily being raised. They're not necessarily being raised by men. When it comes to the order of power, the power is mothers, aunties. You know, there's a preference towards females over males. And this is something that I wanted to discuss for a while, because obviously there are a lot of women in the black community who are single mothers or who have been raised by single mothers. And so it's a very touchy subject. It's very close to people's heart, because at the end of the day, they see everything through the lens of their mothers. They see everything through the lens of their aunties and their sisters and their cousins. And what a lot of women tend to do is they tend to project and externalize their personal experiences or their anecdotal experiences out onto the wider community. Another thing women tend to do is they are subjective in the way that they think. So they know somebody that they like, and they will say, oh, this person is a nice person. This person is a good person. This person is friendly. Whatever subjective they belief they have about this person, this is what they lead the conversation with. And they will say, well, because such and such is a good person, a nice person, you know, I think they're a good mom or whatever. They just make the assumption that this is true for everybody, or that the exception makes the rule. The other thing that a lot of these women will tend to typically do is they will kind of judge the situation based on their own personal experience. So they will say, well, I grew up in a single mother household and it was fine. There were no real problems. Therefore, there can't be any problems. So what I want to do through this short video, because it's not really going to take me long to discuss this, hopefully, is just to look at some articles and things that anybody could really research and find online to discuss the differences and the issues surrounding single parent culture. Now, I did a video maybe a while back now on this issue with Russell Wilson. Now, a number of people have been telling me that this was just some type of salacious gossip magazine article, which is not true. That Russell Wilson didn't actually give $10,000 to each of Future's baby mamas for the children to start a trust fund or something. Okay, if it's not true, that's an error. Fair enough. But the bottom line is this: the video that I saw, which was, I think, the Ricky Smiley show, was where I first heard this rumor. It doesn't matter whether it's true or not to me, because when you go on the comment section underneath that Ricky Smiley video, you see even Ricky Smiley himself said, you know, Russell Wilson, assuming that it was true, Russell Wilson has taken manhood to a whole new level. And even in the comment section, a lot of people were saying, wow, this is amazing. This is a good thing. He's a real man, blah, 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 blah. So obviously, what's the assertion here? If somebody says, I don't want to be the stepfather of another man's child, he's immediately labeled as somebody who's not a real man, which is a problem in and of itself. So I just want to clarify a few things. Number one, I do believe that step parenting is a good thing. I do think that it's great if people can reform families, and I'm happy for single mothers if they find love and happiness, okay? Because at the end of the day, everybody wants to be loved, and obviously it's beneficial for the children if they have some type of stability in the form of a two-parent household. But my issue with the whole Sierra thing and the culture thing is the mentality within the Black community towards this family setup. Because what I feel like a lot of the times we do is we want to fix the problem once it's already gone bad, instead of trying to avoid the situation getting in that way in the first place. So, you know, should single mothers have an opportunity to get married again? Of course. Even in the scripture, it says if a woman dies as a widow, you know, if a woman husband dies and she's young, let her remarry. It's better to remarry than it is for her to stay a single young woman. Why? Because if you've been sexually active and you're still a sexual being, then obviously you need a man to be there. And the chances of you going off and just kind of, you know, back in the day they didn't call it the CC, but that's what would happen. You would go off and start being sexually active and getting into all kind of problems. So the scripture encourages people who are young to marry. So if you're a single mom and you have the desire to be married, get married again, or get a partner. I don't know how to say, because there's a distinction between the widow and the baby mama, and that's another thing I want to kind of touch on in this video. My issue with the Sierra situation is the cultural mindset that a baby mama is to be praised more than a woman who does things right. Okay, this is not, you know, drag baby mama day. This is not, you know, you're the scourge of the earth, let's crucify you all, blah, blah, blah. But it's a cultural mindset that makes T.I.'s stepdaughter say, I would rather be a baby mama than a wife. Like, in times gone by, these are not the kind of words that young women would utter, because before they even had the ability to get married, they've already planned their wedding in their mind. They look forward to the day when they walk up the aisle. They know who is going to be their bridesmaid, who would be the flower girl. I mean, you name it. Even today, well, especially in other cultures, I think a lot of these women, they literally live for the day when they get married. I mean, not all of them want to be wives, but they definitely want to be married, and at least that's a start. But in the Black community, marriage has been so undermined that people care more about being mothers than they do wives. And to me, the reason is this. Number one, you don't need to be qualified to be a mother. You don't need to actually answer to anybody to be a mother. And then culturally, they'll back you up. They'll be like, oh, poor thing, you were left with the baby and, you know, you did the best you could. It's culturally a climate that accepts this kind of mentality. You'll be praised for it. Whereas if you're a child, you're kind of a hostage. You know, you can't really go anywhere because you're dependent. You know, a husband can leave. A husband can scrutinize. A husband can criticize. And culturally, even in these modern times where it's a mess, people still critique, you know, your wife or your husband. They'll still look at you like, what kind of husband is this? What kind of wife is this? So a child there's always an excuse if you make a mistake with a child, but a lot of people, they have a lot to say because you're adults. And so the pressure to be a decent wife or a decent husband is higher. The risks are higher. And so a lot of people take the easy route, which is I want unconditional love, I want support, I want somebody to be there for me. I know what I'll do, I'll have a child. And so, you know, baby mamas, there's a difference between a baby mama and a widow. Let me start there. Okay. So the culture is it's easy to be a mom because you don't need to be qualified. You actually have to be selected to be a wife in a true sense, in the sense of the word. As we've said before so many times, he who finds a wife finds a good thing. You have to operate as a wife. You have to be seeking to develop the skills to be a wife and a mother before you actually find a husband, or a husband finds you. He sees you, he likes you, and he locks you down. He's like, this is who I want in my corner for the rest of my life. That's how it's supposed to be. And so a lot of women do not want to put in the work to be qualified to be selected. This is why they like to redefine the terms of marriage. Like, why can't it be about looks? Or why can't I leave with my education or my career? Because they know that an education and a career doesn't diminish the way the skills to be a wife will. Okay. Why is there a difference between a baby mama and a widow? The widow is somebody who got married. The widow is a woman who has the nurturing. She has the parental mindset. She's probably submissive, cooperative. The very skills that made a man want to commit to her for life are the kind of skills that make her a good mother as well. And so, and I'm not saying that there are no good single mothers out there, baby mamas. I'm just saying that when it comes on to things like disdain and contempt for children that can cause women to be abusive to their own kids, you often don't have that with a widow, because the child is the only living remnant of that dead spouse. When you have you know, the deadbeat dad, quote unquote, the deadbeat dad, the animosity that a lot of women feel towards the father, they take it out on the child. And this can cause the child to have all kind of issues later on in life, identity issues. Obviously, you have parental alienation. The mother tries to punish the father by stopping. And I'm not saying that it's only mothers who do this, but we know the significant number of single parent households are single mother households. So it's like 8 to 9 times more likely that you have a child being raised by a woman who's going to stop the woman, the father, seeing the kids, than a man stopping the woman from seeing her kids. Because statistically, I was just looking at some stats. It was like 90% of single mothers in the UK, single parent households in the UK, are single mother households. So it's a ratio of 9 to 1. So it stands to reason that if a parent is going to stop one from seeing the other, the kids from seeing the whoever, it's going to be the mother stopping the father, not the father stopping the mother. Okay, unless there's like abuse or something in there where she's really dangerous. 9 times out of 10, just out of petty spite, you're more likely to have a woman who will just use the children as a weapon against the father. So why did I say all of that? Because these are the kind of issues that come about when you have single parent situations. And because the child is a reflection of the father, for a widow, she's going to love that child more because she knows this is the only connection to the man that's dead. Whereas when the mother or the baby mother looks at the child of the man that she feels left her or abandoned the family, it's more likely that she's going to be frustrated. And what we find with the difference between a baby mama, single parent household is, and I'm going to get into it, one of the biggest issues is finances. A woman who got married, chances are the man has left some kind of safety net for the kids. And, you know, hopefully he's got life insurance. I know in certain parts of the world that's a must anyway. He's got some kind of provision made. Maybe he's got a house going or something, and she's just maintaining everything that he's helped to build. When you're talking about a baby mama situation, they didn't build anything generally for her to be secure once he's left the picture. I mean, because probably the pregnancy was unplanned, so he wasn't planning to be in a picture in the first place. A lot of the times, these women will say, well, he abandoned his family. But most men will argue if that man didn't want to be a family with you, he didn't abandon the family. Hey, Manosphere Maniac morning, guys. It is 1:30, nearly 1:30 in the afternoon here. Red Pill and Black Pill Effect. Salute to you, fam. How you doing? Um, I'm not looking at the screen, you know, I'm busy playing zombie apocalypse time. With this very serious conversation, you know, I have to do two things at once because my attention span is way too short. You thank the TV. Um, so these single mothers, single, when I say single mothers, I mean baby mamas, but I'm so used to saying single mothers. Baby mamas have not had the foundation laid for a family, which means that they are under increased pressure, increased stress, and that often leads to them being abusive to their kids more than a widow who actually loves the children because they're a reflection of the man who's passed away. Okay, so the Sierra situation is to do with a cultural mindset. And that cultural mindset, or what does it say in the scripture? It says, he's not for you is against you, and they scatter. And I used to think, well, there's a lot of people who are fence riders. So where do they stand? But the truth of the matter is, if you're not against something, subconsciously you're going to support it, because the path of least resistance is often what people will take when they get into certain situations. So this is why you have women who are like, well, I'm not a baby mama, but I still support baby mamas. Like, you haven't had kids, you're not a baby mama. Why are you defending baby mamas? Well, it can happen to anybody. They don't plan to be baby mamas. Well, if you're having unprotected sex with a man who hasn't committed to you, you kind of are planning to be a baby mama. And if you ask these women, do women plan to be single mothers? I guarantee you 9 times out of 10, 11 out of 10, they will say no. Nobody wakes up and thinks one day I'd like to be a single mom. But the reality of the situation is, yes, if you're not planning to not be a single mom, chances are you may end up as a single mom. And so this cultural acceptance of the single mother is why it's so prevalent in the Black community. Okay. And so when you turn around and say to people you don't support this culture, you're deemed as a hater. You're picking on single mothers. They're doing the best that they can. But that's not the point. Sometimes your best just isn't good enough. And when you get into the statistics surrounding single mothers, we will see, I can't do technology, so I'm going to try put the control pad down and do a little screen sharing. I hope everyone's having a good day. This is a tough topic. We know it's not an enjoyable topic to discuss, but we have to kind of touch on it, because everywhere I go, I see conversations of people complaining about how Black men abandon their family. And you get into these conversations with these women, and they're going ape on you about why it's actually the men's fault. And it's like, a lot of you Black women were messed up by your mothers long before you were messed up by a man. Because when you lived at home with your mother, chances are, and we're going to get into it, chances are you were in poverty, chances are you were neglected, chances are, there could have been some type of abuse. Okay, and all of these play a factor. And then you have the narrative of it's the man's fault because he abandoned his family. So by the time you start getting into relationships with men voluntarily, your perception of men is already too warped to have a sensible, healthy relationship. And so I came across this. I just did a quick search because, like I said, my attention span is low. I can't read too much. So bear with me. So I need to check. I didn't check the date of this one, but I tried to find quite a recent one. And a lot of these are to do with the UK. So does single parenting affect children? John Kelly is confused, okay? John Kelly is confused. Why is he confused? Because this piece that I quickly read, it says the face of single parenting has changed in recent decades. It's no longer synonymous with broken homes and illegitimate children. Blah 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 blah. Probably at least in part because single parenting is more common. Okay, yeah, people are more accepting because the stigma of being a single parent has been removed. Now, is that a good thing? You know, you don't want to go to school every day and be called a bastard, that's for sure. But now it's become so accepted that people are just doing what they like. What's more, many of the children in these types of situations do very well. And this is a guy, but again, here's a female argument. US President Barack Obama, for instance, grew up in a non-traditional household, and it didn't keep him from reaching the highest political office in nation. And once again, you know, the exception proves the rule. It proves that the average person is not Barack Obama when they come from a single parent household. However, while kids raised by single parents are less likely to be stigmatized, and this is why I say, John, you're confused, than they once were, many are still at risk of certain psychological and developmental problems. So I'm just like, why did you put that first bit in the intro? You should have just gone straight to this. Because you know where this is going. You know where this is going, but you still want to try and pretty it up because maybe he wants you to actually read the article where you think it's like a good bait and switch. I don't know. For example, children from single parent homes are more likely to drop out of school, and they are also more vulnerable to alcohol and drug use. Okay, so when we're talking about, I don't know if anybody can see, everybody can see. Let me see, let me try to make it a bit bigger. So if you can't see, you can see. At the end of the day, that's already a big issue. That you are more likely to be alcohol dependent, you're more likely to have a drug addiction, and also it talks about things like crime. You're more prone to getting involved in crime. Where am I? Am I using this one? Yeah. To really get a handle on how it's not saying anything. Whew. So I was on a roll and into the and StreamYard said no. Oh. Okay, so I don't know how long this thing was out. So yeah. So okay, so I don't know where I was now when it cut off because I was looking at the actual article and not at the screen. Okay, so when it comes to the concept of a single parent household, I was focusing, I don't know who was listening. We're talking about economics. Children who are raised in a single parent household where the mother is more educated, they are more likely to do better than children raised by less educated single mothers. Because a child who is raised by a single mother who is educated, at least the mother values education. That's why she went and got her own education. She's more likely to have a better paying job. So she's able to invest in her children. And what we find is, you know, stable households and people from other communities, they invest in their young people earlier and earlier. They're buying the educational toys. They have a home where the children have, their own room and a space outside to play. They can give those children extracurricular activities. These are all kind of things that will build up a child's skill set, that increase the chances of them being successful. You also have things like I was saying before it cut off, I'm assuming pets. A pet is a great way to teach a child to be responsible. It gives them an opportunity to care for something. It develops certain social skills. It means they're able to talk to people about their pet. So it builds up their character and their personality. And these are all skills that become transferable into adulthood when it comes to things like school. Why are they more likely to drop out of school? Because they haven't had the investment when they're younger. School is just too hard. One of the other things that you can find with economic pressure is, simple things like food. If you are in a compromised financial position, you're not able to necessarily give your children the most nutritious food. You're not necessarily able to give them 3 meals a day. So if they're only going to school to get lunch, how is that going to impact their ability to concentrate? How is that going to impact their physical development of their brain? So being a single mother is not just about calling them a scourge. It's about looking at the details and the practicalities as to why being a single mother can impact not just that particular child, but the community at large. Family instability. If you are a single woman with a child and you want to date and you can't find a babysitter, what's the chances that you're going to bring strangers into the home, which poses a risk for children? What about the fact that psychologically it negatively impacts a child to not even constantly, even a handful of different partners is enough for a child to think to themselves, I don't want to get attached to any of these adults, because at some point this adult is going to disappear like all the others. So when we talk about how single parenthood impacts girls and why they have issues with, daddy issues and blah, 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 it's not about what men do when you get to 16 and 18 and you start dating as a girl. It's about the first 16 to 18 years with that mother. What kind of example did she set for you? And obviously conflict between parents, conflict between children, because what actually happens is as children get older, male and female, they're going to start to rebel against their mother, because the mother will want to try to control the children and the children will want to start to spread their wings. Okay, so let me see. Let me see. I think it's the screen sharing. Since I started screen sharing, the internet just keeps deciding I'm going to just drop off. And I'm just like, at least tell me. Okay, so let's go back into this article and see what it's saying. Okay. So it says here, ultimately the answer to whether single parenting affects any particular child is this: it depends. A single parent with adequate resources may provide a stable, nurturing home in which children thrive just as well as those who have two parents. On the other hand, a single parent who is just scraping by and has little time, energy, or skill for parental duties might have children who are at risk of a variety of problems. Okay, so that's the crux of the matter. The average single parent is probably just scraping by. And as a result of the deficit that comes through being a single parent, you have little time, little energy, and maybe lower skill. And that bit there, skill for parental duties. This is why it was supposed to be a thing where you were selected to be a wife before you had children, because the man is supposed to see within the woman qualities that he can also say, not only do I want you to be my companion, I actually want you to be the mother of my kids. And in a culture where people are sexually liberated, where there's no qualifiers and there's no vetting, then what happens? You end up with a culture of people who are not trained, who are not equipped to do the job of a parent still having kids. And then those children end up with a variety of problems that then become a problem on society. And I'm not trying to be nasty about anyone who was raised by a single mom. I was raised by a single mom in the latter part of my childhood, and then I ran away. And I say these things very off the cuff, but I'm actually deadly serious. I just walked out one day at 16. I'd had enough. So oversharing, but that's the byproduct of all sorts of childhood trauma. You just feel the need to overshare. Just pretend like you didn't hear that bit. So psychological effects of having a single parent. You know, I haven't read all of this, but one major study in Sweden, which is in line with other research on the subject, looked at the health records of nearly 1 million young people and found that children from single parent families had twice the incidence of psychiatric illness, suicide attempts, alcohol abuse compared with those from a two-parent household. Now, what we've got to look at here, other studies have shown that kids living with single parents have lower self-esteem. Now, last night I watched a video, and it was looking at the correlation between TV time and criminality. And it was saying that basically TV is not the cause of criminal behavior in young people, but a child on average should have up to 2 hours of TV time a day. That's what the psychiatrist or the psychologist in the video said. And what he said was, for every hour, and I'm assuming this is every hour on average, because there just aren't enough hours in the day, for every hour, and I'm going to add the word on average, that a child spends on watching TV per day, the chances of them going into criminal activity goes up by 30%. So if the child watches 2 hours or less, chance of them becoming criminal, low. If they watch 3 hours a day on average, it goes up to 130%. 4 hours a day, what's that, 160? 5 hours a day, 190. And 6 hours or more a day, it's almost guaranteed. Now, I think that's a bit, it's not maybe it's an exaggeration, but the point here is this. Number one, what are children watching on the TV? A lot of TV, even TV geared towards children, has a lot of sexual innuendos. There's actually violence. Now, I'm not one of these people who's like, oh, you know, cartoons and video games make all the children do wrong things. But there's definitely some kind of programming that goes on where children think certain things are okay because they see it on TV. But the bigger point is this. Why is a child sitting in front of the box for 6 hours a day? That is neglect. That is why the child goes into criminal behavior, because they're being neglected. Because how do you find as a child 6 hours if you go to school for how many hours a day? You go to school from, say, 9 in the morning, you come back at 3:30. Your school what finishes 3:30? You come back at 4. So you're watching TV from 4 until 10. And by 10 o'clock, what are you watching? Sex, violence, all kinds of nonsense on the telly. So obviously you're being neglected. If you're watching that much telly, what is your concentration span? Are you doing your homework? So of course, if you're watching 6 hours worth of TV a day, you're more likely to go into criminality because you don't have any other skills. If you want things and you want money and you have no skills to earn it, you are going to go into crime. And it's not the TV that makes you a criminal, it's the neglect. Okay? So if you're a person on a low income, do you have the funds to invest in your children's skill set? Probably not. So what's going to happen? They're going to become discouraged with school and drop out. So where am I now? let me try and go back. I can't really do this. It's technology. Barack wrote a book. Barack wrote the book Dreams of My Father, not Dreams of My Mother. Think about it. Shout out to Carl. Exactly. You know, so low self-esteem. Let's look at this one. Okay, let's go back. Psychiatric illness. Why are you going to have psychiatric illness? Because you don't have an identity. You don't know who you are, and you're often going to be told negative things about your father. And imagine how difficult that's going to be if you're a son. You're a son. Oh, you look like your daddy. You're worthless like your father. You're no good like your dad. I mean, I remember my mother saying to me once as we were looking in the mirror, you look like your dad. And, it wasn't like a compliment. It wasn't, you remind me of your great father. Something that a widow would say to her kids. You're so much like your father. I wish you could have met him. It's you're worthless like your ugly daddy. And you probably be a bum like him kind of thing. What does that do to a child's psychology? It's going to wreck them. Okay. It's going to give them low self-esteem. It's going to give them abandonment issues. Now, you have abandonment issues even if your father has passed away. Whether you are a child who is your father has died, or whether you are a child whose father has left or is not around, you will experience abandonment issues, because at the end of the day, you feel like you're going to internalize that issue as a child to think, I must have done something wrong. That's why my parent is not here, even when the parent has died. But it's going to be heightened in the case of a single mother, because she's probably also going to say negative things about the father, like he abandoned his family, i.e. he abandoned you. So psychologically speaking, children who come from single parent households are more likely to have psychiatric problems because of the low investment, the low engagement, maybe the mother's depressed. And so these mental issues, whether it's she has a biological or genetic predisposition that the child is inherited, or just the overall vibe of the house because the mother herself is depressed, it impacts the child's development. Okay. Suicide attempts. I can't really speak for the suicide because I think, again, it could be an identity problem, or it could be stuff they're going through in the home. Again, is the suicide as a result of the single parent, or is the suicide to do with the fact that the child is in an abusive situation, which makes them so unhappy that they want to end their own life? Okay. Alcohol and drugs. Why are kids who grow up in single parent households more prone to this? Because they haven't got an identity. They're lonely. They're not getting engagement. So who do they turn to? They turn to their peers. They want to be cool. They want to feel accepted. They want an identity. And so they go to their peers who introduce them to a variety of things. Or they're unhappy, so they use these things, drink and drugs, to medicate. Okay. And it doesn't say it here, but children who come from single parent households, in particular single mother households, are more likely to be single parents and teen parents. They saw their mothers doing it, and so they then follow suit. But again, it goes back to the economic situation. If you are a child who's in a household where you're not being stimulated, you're not being engaged, you're not given opportunities because there's no money to pay for those opportunities, then you go out looking for that acceptance. Especially if you're a girl, you're looking for male validation, and you realize, obviously because you're becoming a woman, that you can get validation through your sexuality. And instead of using that sexuality to get a husband, they use that sexuality just to get short-term attention, and then they end up being sexually active and sometimes with a baby. Okay. Low self-esteem, we kind of touched on that already. So it says here, what factors trigger the psychological problem? Divorce remains a common reason why parents end up single. It's not unusual for children to be exposed to or even drawn into the conflict that happens between the parents, i.e. the children are used as a pawn. The lack of family stability. Single parents are more likely to move or experience other disruptions that can affect the children's life. Again, if you are in a low a low economic situation, what's the chances of you ending up having issues paying your bills? What's the chance of you being evicted? You know, so of course, if you can't afford to live where you live, maybe you'll have to keep on moving, or you'll end up in some type of temporary accommodation or whatever. And that can cause a lot of psychological problems. So children thrive on stability, and in an environment where it's uncertain or emotionally tumultuous, the chances of psychological problems increase. So here it gives a few tips to protect the children: talking and listening to them and explaining things to them. Shield them from whatever you can shield them from. Give them a lot of time and attention. Again, if you're working, after you finish work, how much time and attention do you have to give them attention? How much energy do you have to play with them and talk to them? Accentuate the positives. Children in a single parent home often take on more responsibility, which can teach them independence. This is not a good thing. This is why you have people like Jada Pinkett talking about, I saw August Alsina as an opportunity to exercise my codependence. You grew up in a household where you had to take on parental responsibilities as a child, and now you go around trying to fix people, and now you're starting to prey on the vulnerable. So children have to be children. And, here it says, beware of role reversal. Parents without mates sometimes lean on children for support during lonely periods, and not just relying on them in loneliness, relying on them even financially. So this is not a good thing. Okay, yes, teaching them to be responsible is something children have to learn, but making them adults in the household because you don't have a spouse is not a positive. You're setting them up for failure. You're setting them up to be victimized, because there are a lot of broken people out here, and you think you're just being a good person, helping them and fixing them. No, you're putting yourself in a position to be exploited. Okay, so I think that's pretty much the end of the bit here. Okay, developmental effects. Many of the developmental risks that children and single parents have to do with their progress in school. Compared to children from two-parent families, they tend to get lower grades, suffer more absenteeism, and have more problems relating to their peers and teachers. Their dropout rate is higher, and they're less likely to attend college. Children raised by one parent are also more likely than their peers to exhibit problems like increased aggression and anxiety, and to have trouble getting along with their parents. So when you hear people talking about why single parenting is an issue, it shouldn't even be up for debate. When women say, oh, blah, 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 it shouldn't be something that they're debating. It should just be like understood. This is a negative for the whole community, because if you're talking about entrepreneurship, you often hear a lot that, building is the new buzzword in the Black community. Well, with children who are not going to school, getting lower grades, and unable to talk to people, how the hell are you going to be an entrepreneur? How are you going to lead a community? Oh, we need Black men to be leaders. What, when they haven't been to school, and when they did go, they didn't pass? When you hear a woman saying, a single motherhood is fine and I need Black men to build and lead, just give them the side eye, because they're joking. They're joking. The economic situation of single parents is another one of the main factors, and we've talked about this already. The strain on the finances, the way they take it out on the children, and as with a child who feels obligated to drop out of school to help make ends meet, this impacts them, the impact can be indirect. A single parent working two jobs may simply have less time to help a child with their homework. And then again, I think this was the tips that I thought I was getting to. Be consistent, budget, social support. Come on, just stop it. Grandparents in the mix. Well, maybe if you had grandparents in the mix, you wouldn't be a single mom. So let's just knock it off. And these are the sources, just in case you wanted to have a look. A lot of it was psychology today. Okay, so I want to go to another one, because I told you this guy who made this post is joking. He's joking because he's like, it doesn't matter. It doesn't matter. And they're like, yeah, it really does matter. Stop this screen. I'm going to pick a different one. All right, screen share. Wow, I'm really getting into this technology. No, let me not bother with that one. I'll do this one. Statistics. Where are we? Okie dokie. Good. Fatherless generation. Oh my gosh. Should we really go there? So I opened this article. Again, it was another one of these ones where, community has changed and society has changed. And, it's not like it used to be when you had fatherlessness. But it doesn't look quite good for single mothers. Let's just have a look at some statistics. And it's like your jaw hits the floor when you actually see it. So let's have a little look. Because it's not that bad, right? 63% of youth suicides are from fatherless homes. Sounds great. 5 times the average. No problem right there, right? No problem. 90% of all homeless and runaway children are from fatherless homes. That's just 32 times the average. Nothing to see here. 85% of children who show behavior disorders come from fatherless homes. That's only 20 times the average, guys. Why are you getting upset, right? Jesus Christ. You always have this, 80% of black women have been victims of some type of sexual assault by 18, and you black men don't protect us. 80% of rapists with anger problems come from fatherless homes. That's only 14 times the average, guys. Why are you getting upset? Why are you getting upset? No problem. Just 80%. Look, there's still 20% of rapists out here who have two parents in the home, okay? Chill out. 71% of all high school dropouts come from fatherless homes. I mean, if we stopped right here, we could, there's no problem, right? Fatherlessness is not an issue. So, father factor in education. Children with fathers who are involved are 40% less likely to repeat a grade at school. Fathers who are involved, 70% less likely to drop out. Children with fathers who are involved are more likely to get A's. Children with fathers who are involved are more likely to enjoy school and engage in extracurricular activities, as I said before. And 75% of all adolescent patients in chemical abuse centers come from fatherless homes. So we have a culture of drugs, promiscuity, baby mamaism, thug life. And we've got some of the highest rates of single parenthood out of all the ethnic groups, but there's no correlation, right? None whatsoever. Father factor in drug and alcohol abuse. Researchers at Columbia University found that children living in two-parent households with a poor relationship with their fathers are 68% more likely to smoke, drink, or use drugs compared to all teens in two-parent households. Teens in single mother households are at 30% higher risk than those of two-parent households. So when you've got a dysfunctional father in the home, that's the man that the mother chose. It does increase the stress on the children, and that's why they're more likely to have problems. But even compared to two-parent stable household, single mother households don't do as well. Okay, here we go. The prison industrial complex. The mill from the womb to the cell. 70% of youth in state-operated institutions come from fatherless homes. You know what, these black men, you see, we outnumber black men by 2 million because so many of them are dead or in prison. How many times have you heard that? They're in prison. Well, actually, no, it's not that many. It's a lot, but it's not that many. I think it's like 30% or something of black men end up in prison. They're still quite high, but 70% of youth, not adults, young people. So what's that? Juvie? Oh my God. 85% of all youth in prison. 85%. It's only 20 times the average, guys. Why are you getting upset? Why are you getting... It's only 20 times. Some of these things were like freaking 100%. What was it? What was up here? 90% of homeless and runaway children. 32. Come on, man. 20 times the average is nothing. It's nothing. Nothing at all. You know, it's 85% of youth in prison come from fatherless homes. Father factor in incarceration. Even after, here we go, even after controlling for income, youth in father absent households still had significantly higher odds of incarceration than those in mother father families. Youth who never had a father in the household experienced the highest odds. A 2002 Department of Justice survey of 7,000 inmates. How many times have you heard brothers say this? When you go to these prisons, a significant number of these men have been from fatherless homes. Revealed 39%. 4 out of 10 lived in mother-only households. And out of the other 60%, how many of them had instability or problems with the father, the men that these women chose? Approximately 46% of jail inmates in 2002 had a previously incarcerated family. 1/5 experienced a father in jail or prison or jail themselves. It's no big problem, guys. Who you pick and sleep with and who you have babies with is nothing. It's just a baby, guys. Why are you getting upset? Father factor in crime. A study of 109 juvenile offenders indicated that family structures significantly predicted delinquency. Adolescent, particularly boys in single-parent families, were at a higher risk of status, property, and person delinquency. Moreover, students attending school with higher proportions of children from single parents are also at risk. A study of 13,986 women in prison showed that more than half of them grew up without a father. You know, it's all these men. You know, it's not us. The girls are fine. It's these men always blaming women for everything. Just get your act together. Okay, so why are you lot in prison? 13,900, just call it 14 because I can't say that. 14K women in prison, more than half. So 7,000 of the people surveyed here, women here, grew up with no dad. Okay? It's no big deal, guys. Oh my God. I can't find a man on my level. I've got to get my education. I can't trust these men. They're no good. Daughters of single parents without a father involved are 53% more likely to marry as teenagers. What the hell? Is that a real number? 711% are more likely to have children as teenagers. And 164% are more likely to have premarital birth. 92% are more likely to get divorced. Is that a real number? 711%. It's no big deal, guys. It's just the men's fault. They're just trash. They exit the womb and all they want is milk and white women. Milk and white women. Okay? 43% of US children live without their father. 90% of homeless and runaway children are from fatherless homes. 80% of the rapists, 80%, 80% of these black women have been abused by the age of 18. You know, I differentiate between maybe 13, 14 and 15 up, because by that time you're kind of getting into that realm of consent. I know that's controversial, but I didn't even read all of these. I'm glad I didn't, because this is a reaction video at the same time. You're getting a 2 for a 1, guys. I mean, what's the problem? Fatherlessness is not an issue. Just knock it off, because it's just the men, right? It's just these horrid black men who just don't do what they're supposed to do, walking out with all their families. 64.3% million estimated number of fathers across the nation. 26.5 million number of fathers who are part of a married couple. 22% are raising 3 or more of their own children under the age of 18 among married couples. Okay, well, these statistics are driving me to drink. I don't know about anybody else. 85% among the 30.2 million fathers living with children younger than 18, the percentage who live with their biological children. What? 11% with 11% live with stepchildren, 4% with adopted children, less than 1% with foster children. And this was the conversation I was having about Russell Wilson. The person who was discussing with me turned around and said that there are more stepmothers than stepfathers. And I said, you're just proving my point. The average man does not want to raise another man's children. Because there's no, I mean, even being a parent for yourself is not necessarily rewarding if that child turns around and is ungrateful. And how much power do you have when the child is not yours? Oh my God. Okay, here we go. Children with involved, loving fathers are significantly more likely to do well in school, have healthy self-esteem, exhibit empathy, and pro-social as opposed to anti-social, don't judge me, behavior, and avoid high-risk behaviors such as drug use, truancy, and criminal activity compared to children who have uninvolved fathers. So whether that's a father who's just a deadbeat, he doesn't know what he's doing, or a father who's just missing. Okay, why? Because the father is going to play a referee role between a mother and a kid. Sometimes women are kind of all or nothing thinkers. So if the child is out of control, if it's discipline, it's either like some extreme spanking or just kind of stripping the child of everything. And there are times where maybe the mother will overreact, so the father has to intervene between the two. This helps the child to feel protected because somebody's in their corner. Also, you know, a mother may see something one way, the father sees it another. They go away and discuss, and then they come to the child and say, this is what your mother and I have discussed. This is the plan of action we're going to take. Obviously, there's a, you know, good identity, and you have the benefit of hopefully both sets of in-laws, his family and her family, for support. Whereas if in a single parent situation, if there's animosity between the two parents, sometimes you don't really have the support of extended family. And again, that leads into poverty and identity issues. So again, truancy, I mean, you wouldn't need to necessarily truant or go into criminal activity because you're probably not so poor. And I'm not saying that poverty leads to criminal behavior, but if in the culture that's so superficial, a lot of young people will feel pressured to do certain things in order to keep up with their peers who have the money naturally. Compared to children born within a marriage, children born in covenant are 3 times as likely to experience father absence. Okay, so the next point here, I can't really highlight it. Compared to children born within marriage, children born to cohabiting parents are 3 times as likely to experience father absence, and children born to unmarried, uncohabiting parents are 4 times as likely to live in a father absent home. Now this goes, I did a video some time ago. If you haven't watched it, please check it out, where it says, hey, Naima, how you doing? Zachary, salute to you. Cisse Latre, nice to see you. I'm not looking at the phone. Hello, my love. How are you doing? I'm doing very well. Good morning, everyone. Yeah, is YouTube messing with my chat room? I don't know. I don't think so, Zachariah. My internet is trash, though. That's what I do know. Very true. Overreact. I mean, they're just overreacting. What was it? 80% of all these rapists and running around victimizing all these dark-skinned black girls. It's just 80% of them come from fatherless homes. That's still 20% of these guys who had a father involved, right? So it's not a big deal. It's only 4 out of 5 rapists. Only 4 out of 5. Why are you getting your knickknacks in a bunch, guys? Where was I? I should really put the phone here, which would make a lot more sense, that I could see what's actually going on. Oh, here we go. So, and I say this facetiously, I make a little bit of joke out of it, but it's very serious. Where was I? I did a video a while back called Women, you decide who's bedded, but men decide who's wedded. This is something you will hear very commonly in black male spaces, that women control sex, but men control which women get married. And that's ultimately because the woman is supposed to display attributes that make a man want to marry her. And as a result of that, he decides to take her on as his wife, because at the end of the day, that's a responsibility and that's a liability. So the man is supposed to pick a woman not just because he wants her as a companion, but because he can see her as being a good mother for his children. Okay? So in a situation of cohabiting, this is one of the reasons why a lot of people, especially in Christian communities and other religious communities, but we're focusing on the Christian aspect over here, we don't encourage cohabiting, because once you're cohabiting, the temptation to have premarital sex is or out of wedlock sex, depending on whether you're planning to get married or you're just cohabiting, it obviously goes up, which increases the chances of unplanned pregnancies. The big issue here and the big takeaway is the thought process that leads up to the single parent situation. Okay? You don't look at a house and think it just fell out of the sky. And the higher you want that building to go, you've also got to think about the depth of the foundation you want to lay. So when we talk to women who say, do you think women choose to be single mothers? Or do women choose the fathers of their babies? If they answer to the first question, no, I think it's no to both of them. This is a person who's not thinking in reality. Because although you may not sit down on your diary on the bed at 7, one day I hope to be a single mother with 3 kids by 4 men. Your mentality is going to lead to decisions that ultimately lead to that outcome. If you're not consciously, remember I said before, if you're not for us, you're against us. If you're not actively moving towards a clear goal of this is how it's going to be, being passive is going to end up leading to certain outcomes you don't want. And so here when it says, compared to children born within marriage, the children who are of cohabiting parents and unwed parents are more likely to experience fatherlessness, is because at the end of the day, as I've said so many times before, a man categorizes women into three sets by my estimation. You're either fun, a smash, a jump off, whatever you want to call it, pump and dump. You're girlfriend material, I keep you around for a little while and we're dating, I just want to see where it goes, yada yada. Or I actually see you as my wife and I'd like to one day make you specifically my wife. Not I'd like to get married one day, but not necessarily to you. That's category 2. It's no, I want you. Okay? In this situation here, compared to this third point down, compared to children born within marriage, the crux of that statement is the man does not want to marry you and he doesn't want to have children with you. You guys are just, economically sharing bills or something. You're under the same roof. It's convenient. And oops, a baby comes along. He didn't want to make you a family. That's why he ended up being absent. As opposed to the man who said, when I marry you, I also want kids. That's why I'm still here. That's why I married you, because I wanted the kids as well. It's not rocket science, but a lot of these women, again, because they project, shout out to Obsidian, they project their mother into this situation. Well, my mother was a good woman. She was a nice lady. My sister, my cousin, they're all good people, blah, 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 blah. So they try to make out like it's no big deal. No, it is a big deal. And just because they are nice people doesn't mean to say they made good decisions. Okay. And the cultural acceptance of that mentality means that the issues that we've talked about, the dropout rate, the drug addiction, the incarceration, the teenage pregnancy, it becomes a vicious cycle, because as we saw with the incarceration, a number of those children came from fathers who themselves had been or were in prison. But it's all the men's fault, right? It's just black men. All they want is milk and white women. They leave the womb and they're like, give me milk, give me Becky. Okay, children who live in absent biological fathers are on average at least 2 to 3 times more likely to be poor, use drugs, experience educational, health, and emotional behavior problems, and be victims of abuse. My mom's boyfriend touched me. My mom's boyfriend raped me. My mom's boyfriend exposed himself to me. 80% of these black women have been abused by the time they're 18. How many of you came from single mothers? I did a whole video on this. Black women are abused. Where is your mother? Because when she can't find a babysitter and she's fast asleep, he's creeping in the bedroom. Can we keep it all the way 100? She's too busy trying to get a man quickly because she's lonely. And these guys who prey on single mothers because they know single mothers are desperate for attention. And I don't mean to use the word desperate. It's already come out of the mouth now, so it's too late. But if you're a single parent, you're working, maybe you're studying, you're trying to get yourself together, you've got kids who are demanding, you have limited time to date, you find a guy who's interested in you, you're going to try and lock in on that guy. If that guy is a predator, whether he's looking for a come up, he's looking for a couch to sleep on, or he's looking for access to children, he understands that a woman who has kids has limited time to date and vet. And if she already has the situation, we're not talking about the widows, we're talking about the baby mamas. If you already have had a child or children with guys who didn't stick around, that guy instinctively, from a predatory sense, he knows your decision making and your vetting skills are maybe not on point. So with a woman who's stable, she will notice I've got some funny movements. But to a woman who is in that situation, she's not going to see it. And while her back is turned, things are happening. This is why when I hear these women, and I've heard it too many times, oh, these women, they're abused. Why don't black men protect us? Go and ask your mother why she didn't protect you. Because if you were a minor, you were under her jurisdiction. It's not the random black man's fault on the other side of the town who doesn't know you exist to come and protect you. That's why this protection argument does not make any sense. Because the men who you're looking to for protection don't know you're even in existence. Okay? Who should have been protecting you? Your biological father. Where is he? Ask your mother. Again, the title of this stream should be Go Ask Your Mother, because that's where it comes back to. Okay? To engage in criminal behavior than their peers who live with married biological parents. The proportion of single parent homes slightly declined, while the proportion of children living with two parents remains stable. And I think I saw something else down here that was throwing me off the chair. No, that's it. Okay. So does the situation look good or does the situation look bad? And the person was really trying to make this about, shout out to them, oh, I'm just picking on Russell Wilson. And I said to the person, Russell Wilson and Sierra, show me the statement where Sierra says, I love my son. I wouldn't change him for the world. But if I could go back and have my child within my marriage, I would do that because that's the better option for children. Where is that statement? And for a lot of the women who are out here defending single mothers, where is that statement? Because these celebrities are elevated to create trends in the community. That's why you have Toni Braxton saying, I wished I'd had more sex as a young person. And then she throws the Christian faith under the bus by basically saying, it's because I had a religious upbringing. Yeah, your religious upbringing is why you are who you are, probably. Because you probably wouldn't be anything now if you've been running around in the streets. Okay? But that grounding put you in a position where you're how many platinum or Grammys or whatever it is that you've got going on. But now all of a sudden, you know what? I throw it all away just so I could ride the CC. Really? Well, let's build that time machine and let's see. You'd give up your big house and car and titles and your name being everywhere just so you could say I had a thug. Really? These people are a joke, man. These people are a joke. So, a lot of the times people, they like to talk about oh, these men are no good, these men are trash, these men are weak, they're not building. And this is the article where I actually got those statistics from. Okay. The whole have men changed as a result of being raised by single mothers? And again, the guy tries to start out with, it's no big deal, things have changed, and it's not absent fathers aren't a death sentence for boys. And then he went on to say, you know, the statistics on single mother parenting don't exactly look great. So the statistics that we just ran through, this is where I got them from. Okay. So what can we do? Culturally, we have to start changing the culture and encouraging young people that it's important to understand why you should get married. It's important to understand the negative impact if you are a single mother, or you're pregnant, or then that those people need to be supported. But at the same time, they need to be told, don't do it again. Because just because Sierra, who has millions of dollars, she's famous, she's incredibly gorgeous, she plays by a different set of rules. As we can see, the average single mother and the average child growing up in these environments, they are failing and they are struggling. There's a lot of issues that are surrounding these children. Now, a lot of time people say, oh, these mass shooters come from single parent households. Some of them are, but many of them are not. The guy from Sandy Shook. I don't know, because some places they'll ban you for that, man. Although here it says this guy accessed his dad's safe to get the weapons, what kind of father did he have? Did he have an absent father? Did he have an emotionally unavailable father? Did he have an abusive father? Or did he have a loving father? Okay, so don't make out like the just the mere physical presence of the father makes the difference. It's the quality of the father that makes the difference. This is an incapacity to manage aggression. A child and an adolescent psychiatrist who focuses on marriage, divorce, and raising healthy children says about the bleak statistics on men raised by single mothers. Whether we agree that the Y chromosome provides the aggression or not, we could argue that all day. But we know that boys need to manage their aggression, their impulse control, the capacity to say no to yourself, to say I have discipline and not be angry, to not hit someone. Okay, so one of the reasons why I had to do the video, because I was talking to somebody on Instagram today, and the conversation was, I can't even remember now. It was I just have to look at my Instagram because I can't remember what it was. I'm just trolling people all over the damn place. The post was, a lot of black women were raised to be hard so we wouldn't get taken advantage of like our mothers and aunts did. Okay, that was the start of the post. And I said, no. Yes, your mother masculinized you, but a lot of these women were not being taken advantage of the way that you like to think. And it's not that men are abusing you. You need to understand that under that, somebody said, yes, a lot of these men, why can't men understand that we're not just crazy as black women? We've been through a lot, and some of these men put us through things. So that's like a dog whistle for me. I'm like, no, you were messed up by your mother long before a man came into the picture. That's probably why you gravitated towards some of the men that you did in the first place. I didn't say that last bit, but I might go back and edit that comment. No, I'm joking, I won't do that. That's me. But the thing here is this, again, boys who are raised in single mother households have issues controlling their emotions, because although they have the testosterone and the aggression, and aggression is not a bad thing, they don't know how to adequately or appropriately process it and channel it. Aggression is why when a building is on fire, a man will run in and try and drag out his family. Aggression is why when there's a promotion at work, he wants to go for it because he wants to put more food on the table. Or if he's part of a team, he's going to push through the pain in order to help his team win. Aggression is neither bad or good. It's just appropriate or inappropriate. And as I said earlier, women have a tendency to be all or nothing. It's like either they're not disciplining or they're over disciplining. So as a male growing up in a household, and I've got an article here that I hope it's this one. As a male growing up in a household with a female who's overbearing, over time that male is going to resent her. And because the way we interact with our parents becomes the framework as children for how we interact with people at large, when you have an abusive mother, you then start to be hypersensitive to all abusive females. This is why you have men out here who are like, I don't date black women. It's because as soon as behaviors that remind them of their mother rear their head, they immediately have this reaction because in their subconscious, although they cannot remember every single incident of abuse, those memories are suppressed in the subconscious with the emotional response. So say, for example, you were a 6-year-old boy and your mother came in and she whacked you with the slipper, all right? Your 6-year-old self is going to respond a certain way, cowering, crying, maybe you wet yourself, you have fear, whatever, right? That memory gets lost from your conscious mind, but the memory is buried and suppressed in the subconscious with the 6-year-old reaction. Okay, you are now 26, 36, 46, and you get into a relationship with a woman and she just picks up a slipper and you wet yourself. I'm just making an extreme example, okay? People will look at you and laugh and say, how can you be a big man and you wet yourself? It's because in the subconscious mind, when you were traumatized as a 6-year-old boy by your mother when she beat you with the slipper, as a 26-year-old, 36-year-old, 46-year-old man, that subconscious program is running in the background. And once it sees that trigger, i.e. a big belligerent black woman coming at me with a slipper, the 6-year-old response comes out as well. This is why you can have people who are perfectly normal, perfectly competent, and in a certain situation, they just fall apart. There's an unresolved issue in that subconscious that has a response that is fixated at a particular age. Because even though you have physically aged, your memories do not, and neither do your responses. So in every other area, you are fine, and then all of a sudden, somebody just says a word, they wear a perfume, they make a certain job, you blow up. You don't even know why. You see something and you have a reaction. You don't know why that thing creeps you out. It's because maybe when you were young, something happened involving that object or that kind of person, that smell or that color. And now when you see it, you can't consciously remember what happened. But in your subconscious, there's a reaction there. And when you see it, for some reason, you can't tolerate it. So when you see black men saying we're going SYSBM, it's not just, like I said, Milk and Becky. No, they actually have some kind of trauma in a lot of instances that mean that they don't want to be with black women. That's why I don't really fault black men who like to be with non-black women, or black people who want to be with non-black people. Okay, so the ability to manage aggression, obviously, as we saw with the last article, when mothers or parents don't have companionship, they often try to make children an extension of themselves. And as a result, they restrict their children's ability to grow and be independent. And that causes the children to become frustrated, especially boys who have testosterone and energy that they need to burn. And then I have the discipline to manage my emotion. It's an important component of masculinity. And women are emotional. So if you're a boy raised around a lot of females, how are you going to learn to manage your emotions in a highly emotional situation all the time, every day? So, as we can see, this is not about picking on Sierra. This is not about throwing all, single mothers into the fire. It's about saying culturally, we need to encourage young people to understand why this is not the good route for them or their kids. Um, okay. So this is the bit that I was talking about. I did kind of skim through this. In other words, she could teach him the skills. He just may not be able, due to a mixture of his own temperament, their dynamic, and cultural messages telling him to shun anything like a female influence, to hear it, accept it, or internalize it. So this is the conflict between his burgeoning masculinity and her trying to turn him into a girl and treating him like a broken female. Um, I was just watching Kevin Samuels. I missed, the live stream is on at a time when I'm not really likely to be able to watch it. But I caught just flicking going through the replay, and I was just listening to this call, and she was like, men need women because men cannot cook as well as women. I thought Cardi B said we don't cook and we don't clean. So how you work that one out? Number two, when you look at the top professionals in any area, the vast majority of them, even if it's a so-called female arena, is men. Hairstylists, the top ones are men. Fashion designers, making clothes for ladies, men. Cooking, chefs, men. So how do you work out that men can't do these things? Until the other day when the armed forces allowed women in, was it not men cooking and cleaning for themselves? Is it not men training other men how to shine their boots and fix their rifle and make their bed? So how do you work that one out? Just come up with some nonsense sometimes. Okay, so here it says, so the guy has this burgeoning masculinity, but at the same time, the woman is trying to force him into a girl's role, and that's causing him to become frustrated. And all children eventually will start to rebel against their mother. A daughter will rebel against the mother because she's starting to get male attention, and she realizes she doesn't need to rely on her mother to give her money and attention. She can use her looks and her body to get it from guys. And if she hasn't got a father in the home, she will definitely be more inclined to try and get that male validation, but it becomes warped because the guys outside of her family are approaching her from a sexual standpoint. And by the time she realizes you can't really use your body as a bargaining chip, some bad things have probably happened. Even if she hasn't been through some type of abuse or assault, just the mere fact that she's casually maybe being sexual in and of itself, is going to mess her up psychologically, and that's also going to impact her self-esteem. So that's basically it. Okay. And as you can see from the screen, but he doesn't think that it's fatherlessness per se. Fatherlessness is not the same as maleness. Again, in times gone by when you had single mother households, you had a culture that was still very gender specific. You had male and female roles. So even if you didn't have your biological father, you would have had strong father figures in the form of teachers, grandparents, uncles, people who would say, well, I'm coming over to the house today and I'm taking your boy with me and we're going fishing. So he's still got the impact of a male role model. But now you've got feminization of men, especially black men, in the wider society, and you don't have that support system in the home. So it's an absence of fatherlessness, and it's an absence of male influences. And I'm just going to pretty much shut it down with this one, where it says his boys sometimes need to differentiate from their mother as part of their masculine identity. It says, I'm not her, I'm me. Some boys, 9 or 10, don't want to talk to their mothers. They ignore their mothers and write off their mothers. Most women will roll their eyes and know it's not a big deal. A boy needs to find his identity from his mother, but he will feel if he caves to her, he can feel as if he's being undermined. He can feel like you can't tell me what to do. This is reinforced 1,000 times by culture. Culture gives men the notion that if you cave to your mother, you're a mama's boy, and that's not okay. Many boys can't take that, so they push back on their mother. And this is how the conflict between the mother and the children starts. And before you know it, although she may be trying to tell him the right thing, he doesn't want to feel like he's constantly under his mother's thumb. And again, a father in the home will teach a child how to relate. The son will identify with the father, and he will watch how the father handles the mother. This will give him guidance, because children learn more through what they observe than what you tell them. Because it says here, and I know 9-year-olds, and they're very quick to say, but mommy, you turned around and said this, but you did this, but mommy. By this age, they start to notice things. And this is where sometimes even respect for the parent becomes lost. And you think, well, he's just 9, she's just 10. But they see and they understand a lot. And as a result of that, you start to lose them at that point. So this was a video that I had to kind of put out there, because there is a lot of talk about single mothers, and a lot of the time people, especially women, try to project how it's not a big deal, and why black men in particular shouldn't be so hard on black women. But the reality is this: it's a serious issue, it's a serious cultural problem, and it starts with our mentality towards single motherhood. So I hope you enjoyed this video. I really hope that you have a good Friday and a good start to your weekend. Let me know what you think in the comment section. Share this video with somebody who needs to see it, and I will catch you in the next one. Like, share, and subscribe. Peace.